There was a time when Christmas parties sparkled under tinsel-covered ceilings, and the appetizer table was the true star of the night. Before shrimp towers and trendy charcuterie boards, families proudly served dishes molded in gelatin, layered with cream cheese, or wrapped carefully in bacon. In the 1960s and 70s, holiday entertaining was an art form, complete with punch bowls, cocktail napkins, and recipes clipped from magazines. These appetizers weren't just food. They were tradition, conversation starters, and symbols of celebration. Tonight, we're stepping back into that glittering era to rediscover 10 Christmas appetizers that quietly disappeared from American tables. The Christmas cheese ball. Long before spinach dip bowls and store-bought party trays, there was one appetizer that always claimed the center of the Christmas table: the cheese ball. In the 1960s and 70s, no holiday gathering felt complete without this carefully shaped sphere resting proudly on a glass platter, surrounded by buttery Ritz crackers and celery sticks. The classic version blended softened cream cheese with sharp cheddar, Worcestershire sauce, and a hint of onion powder. Some families added crushed pineapple or a dash of hot sauce for flair. But the real magic was on the outside. The ball was rolled in chopped pecans, fresh parsley, or even crumbled bacon, giving it that festive, snow-dusted appearance under glowing Christmas lights. This wasn't just a snack. It was a symbol of hospitality. Suburban homes filled with laughter, cigarette smoke drifting faintly through the air, Perry Como playing softly in the background. The cheese ball sat patiently while guests gathered around, spreading thick layers onto crackers and exchanging stories about the year gone by. Its popularity rose alongside the post-war boom of convenience foods. Cream cheese became a refrigerator staple, and entertaining at home was fashionable. Women proudly experimented with flavors, often clipping recipes from women's magazines or the back of food packaging. Presentation mattered. The smoother and rounder the cheese ball, the more impressive the hostess. But by the late 1980s, the cheese ball slowly faded. Health trends shifted. Party spreads modernized. The once beloved centerpiece was replaced with lighter dips and imported cheeses. Yet for many who grew up in that era, the sight of a pecan-covered cheese ball still whispers Christmas. It carries the memory of crowded living rooms, clinking glasses, and a time when holiday appetizers felt homemade, indulgent, and deeply personal. The tomato aspic mold. If there was one dish that truly defined mid-century holiday entertaining, it was the shimmering tomato aspic mold. By the 1960s, no Christmas buffet felt complete without at least one jewel-toned gelatin creation sitting proudly on a pressed glass platter. Savory gelatin had been popular since the early 20th century, but during the 60s and 70s, it reached its decorative peak. Tomato juice was blended with unflavored gelatin, vinegar, celery, grated onion, and sometimes finely chopped green peppers. Once chilled in a decorative mold, often shaped like a wreath or ring, it emerged glistening under the twinkle of Christmas lights. The center was usually filled with a scoop of mayonnaise, shrimp salad, or even cottage cheese for contrast. To modern eyes, it may look unusual, but at the time, it represented sophistication. Refrigeration had become reliable, gelatin was affordable, and molded dishes felt elegant and advanced. Serving in aspic mold showed effort and refinement. It was cool, refreshing, and balanced the heavier meats and casseroles that dominated winter tables. Holiday magazines often showcased elaborate versions with suspended olives, herbs, or seafood arranged like ornaments within the red gelatin. Housewives competed quietly over whose mold released cleanly without cracks, because presentation mattered as much as taste. By the late 1970s, however, America's palate shifted. Heavier savory gelatins lost favor, and the tomato aspic slowly disappeared from Christmas spreads. Changing tastes and the decline of formal entertaining pushed it into obscurity. Yet for those who remember it, the sight of that glossy red ring still evokes candlelit dining rooms, polished silverware, and a time when holiday food was as much about spectacle as flavor. Cocktail wieners in grape jelly. There was something irresistible about the slow cooker tucked into the corner of a 1970s Christmas party, quietly simmering with cocktail wieners bathed in a glossy, sweet and savory sauce. These bite-sized sausages, often called Little Smokies, were a holiday staple that guests hovered around all night. The recipe was famously simple. A bag of cocktail wieners was poured into a saucepan or crock-pot, then covered with a mixture of grape jelly and chili sauce. As it heated, the jelly melted into the tangy sauce, creating a sticky glaze that clung perfectly to each sausage. The aroma, sweet, smoky, and slightly spicy, filled the house within minutes. To modern tastes, grape jelly in a meat dish might sound surprising. But in the 60s and 70s, creative convenience cooking was celebrated. Processed ingredients weren't frowned upon, they were embraced as clever shortcuts. The rise of the slow cooker made entertaining easier, allowing hosts to keep appetizers warm without constant attention. At Christmas gatherings, guests would spear the wieners with toothpicks, balancing paper plates in one hand and punch cups in the other. Children loved the sweetness, while adults appreciated the comforting familiarity. The dish required no forks, no knives, no formality, just casual mingling. Food companies heavily promoted recipes like this in magazine ads, presenting them as modern solutions for the busy hostess. Sweet and savory combinations felt innovative and festive. By the 1990s, however, tastes shifted toward fresher, less processed options. The humble grape jelly wiener quietly slipped away from fashionable party spreads. Yet for many, that sticky glaze still tastes like Christmas Eve, crowded kitchens, aluminum trays on folding tables, and the simple joy of reaching back for just one more. Cocktail wieners in grape jelly. There was something irresistible about the slow cooker tucked into the corner of a 1970s Christmas party, quietly simmering with cocktail wieners bathed in a glossy, sweet and savory sauce. These bite-sized sausages, often called Little Smokies, were a holiday staple that guests hovered around all night. The recipe was famously simple. A bag of cocktail wieners was poured into a saucepan or crock-pot, then covered with a mixture of grape jelly and chili sauce. As it heated, the jelly melted into the tangy sauce, creating a sticky glaze that clung perfectly to each sausage. The aroma, sweet, smoky, and slightly spicy, filled the house within minutes. To modern tastes, grape jelly in a meat dish might sound surprising. But in the 60s and 70s, creative convenience cooking was celebrated. Processed ingredients weren't frowned upon, they were embraced as clever shortcuts. The rise of the slow cooker made entertaining easier, allowing hosts to keep appetizers warm without constant attention. At Christmas gatherings, guests would spear the wieners with toothpicks, balancing paper plates in one hand and punch cups in the other. Children loved the sweetness, while adults appreciated the comforting familiarity. The dish required no forks, no knives, no formality, just casual mingling. Food companies heavily promoted recipes like this in magazine ads, presenting them as modern solutions for the busy hostess. Sweet and savory combinations felt innovative and festive. By the 1990s, however, tastes shifted toward fresher, less processed options. The humble grape jelly wiener quietly slipped away from fashionable party spreads. Yet for many, that sticky glaze still tastes like Christmas Eve, crowded kitchens, aluminum trays on folding tables, and the simple joy of reaching back for just one more. Maki, the exotic party bite. In the glow of 1960s and 70s Christmas cocktail parties, there was one appetizer that felt daring and worldly, ramaki. Served on silver trays and passed between guests balancing highball glasses, these bacon-wrapped bites carried an air of sophistication that felt almost glamorous. Ramaki traced its popularity to the mid-century fascination with Polynesian-themed dining and tiki culture. Inspired loosely by flavors served in American Chinese restaurants, the dish typically featured water chestnuts and chicken livers marinated in soy sauce and ginger. Each piece was wrapped carefully in bacon, secured with a toothpick, and baked until the bacon turned crisp and glossy. The combination was unforgettable. Salty bacon, tender liver, and the crisp snap of water chestnut created a contrast that felt bold compared to safer party foods. For many guests, ramaki was their first taste of something that seemed international. Serving it signaled that the host was adventurous and modern. During the holidays, ramaki added a sense of occasion. The aroma of bacon roasting in the oven mingled with pine from the Christmas tree and the sweetness of holiday desserts cooling nearby. Guests often hesitated before their first bite, curious about the unfamiliar ingredients, then quickly reached for another. Food magazines of the era celebrated ramaki as a chic cocktail hour essential. It fit perfectly into a time when Americans were exploring global flavors while still relying on familiar comforts like bacon. By the late 1980s, however, chicken livers fell out of favor and tiki trends faded. Ramaki slowly vanished from Christmas spreads, replaced by milder appetizers. Yet for those who remember it, ramaki still captures the sparkle of mid-century holiday parties, when even a single bite could feel like a passport to somewhere new. Shrimp dip in a hollowed bread bowl. By the early 1970s, shrimp had become the symbol of holiday elegance, and one appetizer quietly stole the spotlight at countless Christmas gatherings: the shrimp dip served in a hollowed-out bread bowl. It felt impressive without being complicated, and it turned an ordinary coffee table into something festive. The base was usually softened cream cheese blended with canned shrimp, a squeeze of lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce, and a spoonful of mayonnaise. Some cooks added grated onion or a dash of hot sauce for extra bite. Once mixed smooth, the creamy filling was spooned into a round loaf of pumpernickel or sourdough bread that had been carefully hollowed out. The torn bread pieces were cut into cubes and arranged around the bowl for dipping. Presentation mattered. The dark bread contrasted beautifully with the pale pink dip, and a sprinkle of parsley or paprika on top made it feel finished. It was practical, too, no extra serving dishes required. As guests dipped and scooped, the bread bowl slowly disappeared along with the spread inside. This appetizer reflected the era's love for convenience paired with showmanship. Canned seafood was affordable and accessible, and cream cheese offered dependable richness. Serving shrimp, even in dip form, suggested a touch of luxury during the holidays. Through the late 1980s and 90s, however, tastes shifted toward fresher seafood and lighter spreads. The once popular bread bowl dip began to feel heavy and dated. But for those who remember it, that creamy shrimp dip still tastes like Christmas Eve chatter, crowded living rooms, and the quiet pride of presenting something that looked and felt special. Stuffed celery sticks. Long before elaborate charcuterie boards and gourmet finger foods took over holiday tables, there was a humble yet beloved classic: stuffed celery sticks. In the 1960s and 70s, no Christmas relish tray felt complete without neat rows of pale green celery, each rib carefully filled with a creamy, savory spread. The base was usually softened cream cheese blended with pimentos, chopped olives, or a packet of dry onion soup mix. Some families added crumbled blue cheese or finely minced walnuts for texture. The mixture was pressed firmly into the hollow of each celery stalk, then sliced into tidy 2-inch pieces and arranged like little presents on a glass platter. Stuffed celery carried an air of freshness among heavier holiday fare. It offered a crisp crunch that balanced rich casseroles, glazed ham, and buttery cookies. On crowded coffee tables, it sat beside pickles, black olives, and carrot sticks, part of the traditional relish tray that symbolized thoughtful hosting. Preparation was simple but deliberate. Celery had to be washed, trimmed, and chilled until perfectly crisp. The filling needed to be smooth enough to spread, yet firm enough to hold its shape. For many households, children were given the small but important task of helping fill the stalks before guests arrived. As entertaining trends shifted in the 1980s and 90s, the relish tray quietly disappeared. Pre-packaged vegetable platters replaced homemade versions, and stuffed celery faded from memory. Yet for those who grew up seeing those neat green rows at Christmas time, one bite still brings back the sound of laughter echoing through the house, and the comforting certainty that the holidays had truly begun. Swedish meatballs with lingonberry sauce. During the 1960s and 70s, Christmas parties weren't just about sweet treats and crackers. They also celebrated small, savory bites that carried both flavor and flair. Swedish meatballs, served hot with a dollop of tart lingonberry sauce, became a favorite appetizer for festive gatherings, offering a touch of European charm to American holiday tables. The meatballs were typically made from a blend of ground beef and pork, seasoned with onion, salt, pepper, and sometimes a hint of allspice. After being browned in a skillet or baked, they were served with a simple sauce of cream or butter, and a spoonful of bright red lingonberry jam added a striking contrast. The tartness of the berries cut through the richness of the meat, creating a balanced bite that delighted guests. This appetizer reflected the mid-century fascination with international cuisine. Scandinavian cookbooks, magazine spreads, and dinner party guides often highlighted Swedish dishes, presenting them as refined, cosmopolitan options. Serving meatballs in small, uniform portions, sometimes on cocktail picks, was both practical and elegant, allowing guests to mingle freely while sampling. At many Christmas parties, these little spheres of seasoned meat were passed around on silver trays, alongside glasses of sparkling cider or cocktails. The presentation, with its glossy sauce and jewel-toned jam, made even a casual gathering feel special. By the late 1980s, however, convenience foods and pre-packaged party trays began to dominate. Homemade Swedish meatballs gradually disappeared from holiday spreads, replaced by frozen versions or entirely different hors d'oeuvres. Yet for those who remember them, the combination of savory meat, creamy sauce, and sweet tart lingonberry still evokes images of bustling kitchens, cozy living rooms, and the anticipation of Christmas dinner, proof that even a simple appetizer can carry the warmth of tradition. Pineapple cheese ring. In the 1960s and 70s, the pineapple cheese ring was a Christmas appetizer that dazzled with both flavor and presentation. Bright, tangy, and slightly sweet, this molded ring was a showpiece at holiday parties, often taking center stage on the buffet table surrounded by crackers, celery sticks, and olives. The base of the ring was usually a mixture of cream cheese and shredded cheddar, whipped together until smooth and lightly sweetened with canned crushed pineapple. Some cooks added a hint of Worcestershire sauce or onion powder to balance the sweetness. Once blended, the mixture was packed into a decorative ring mold and chilled until firm, then inverted onto a serving platter to reveal its perfect circular shape. A garnish of maraschino cherries, parsley, or pineapple tidbits often added a festive touch. This appetizer was the epitome of mid-century convenience meeting culinary flair. Packaged cheeses, canned pineapple, and gelatin molds made it easy for busy hosts to prepare something that looked both elegant and modern. Magazines of the era highlighted it as a must-have for holiday entertaining, promising that it would impress guests without hours in the kitchen. The pineapple cheese ring wasn't just about looks. It delivered a delightful combination of creamy, tangy, and sweet flavors. Guests would spread it generously on crackers, enjoying the cool, smooth texture contrasted by the crunch of the crisp cracker underneath. By the 1980s, however, taste shifted. Health-conscious trends and new party fare rendered sweet and savory molded appetizers less popular. The pineapple cheese ring slowly disappeared from holiday tables, surviving mainly in old family cookbooks or faded recipe clippings. Yet for those who remember it, one bite still evokes the gleam of Christmas lights on tinsel, the chatter of family gatherings, and the anticipation of a festive evening where even the simplest appetizer could feel special. Bacon-wrapped dates stuffed with cheese. By the 1960s and 70s, party hosts were always looking for appetizers that combined indulgence with simplicity, and nothing fit the bill quite like bacon-wrapped dates stuffed with cheese. Small, sweet, salty, and savory, these little bites were the perfect way to kick off a holiday gathering. The preparation was simple yet satisfying. Pitted dates were carefully filled with cream cheese or blue cheese, then wrapped in a half slice of bacon and secured with a toothpick. Baked until the bacon was crisp and golden, the dates emerged sticky, rich, and fragrant. The contrast between the sweet flesh of the date, the creamy filling, and the smoky bacon made each bite an instant crowd pleaser. These appetizers were a staple for cocktail parties and holiday buffets. They looked elegant on a silver tray, easy for guests to pick up, and required no additional plates or utensils. Their popularity was fueled by mid-century entertaining trends that celebrated small, flavorful bites that could be prepared ahead of time, leaving hosts free to mingle. Bacon-wrapped dates also carried a subtle air of sophistication. They hinted at culinary knowledge and creativity while remaining accessible. The combination of flavors was daring for its time, bridging the gap between sweet desserts and savory hors d'oeuvres. As the decades passed and entertaining styles shifted, these decadent bites slowly vanished from American holiday tables, replaced by lighter, more health-conscious options. Yet for those who remember them, the taste of a crisp bacon exterior giving way to sweet, creamy, and tangy goodness still evokes the warmth of holiday kitchens, the chatter of friends and family, and the joy of gatherings where even the simplest bite felt celebratory. As we close the door on these forgotten Christmas appetizers, it's clear that holiday tables of the 60s and 70s were full of creativity, flavor, and charm we rarely see today. From pecan-coated cheese balls to bacon-wrapped dates, each dish carried stories of families gathering, laughter echoing through living rooms, and the magic of festive tradition. These recipes may have faded from modern menus, but their memory lingers, a reminder of a time when every bite was personal, indulgent, and celebratory. If you loved this trip down culinary memory lane, don't forget to subscribe and keep America's lost recipes alive.